الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. To proceed, today بإذن الله تعالى we will address the questions at the end of the story تاجر الحديد وجاره. So, the first question, اقرأ يا محمد.
أين ترك التاجر
أين ترك التاجر
الحديد
أين ترك التاجر الحديد, which means
where did the merchant leave the iron?
right. Why did التاجر, the merchant, ترك, leave الحديد? And this is what type of sentence?
جملة
الجملة الفعلية, because we have ترك التاجر الحديد, which is a three parts of الجملة الفعلية. So in order to answer the question, therefore, we are going to begin with,
give me a few seconds. التاجر, no, he left.
ترك, we're going to begin with the فعل ترك
التاجر الحديد بالجاره والجاره.
Right. ترك التاجر الحديد. So begin with the فعل ماضي ترك, meaning
he left.
التاجر is the
فعل,
the فاعل. وعلامة رفعه
مرفوع
الضمة الظاهرة على آخره. الحديد is the مفعول به. وعلامة نصبه الفتحة الظاهرة على آخره. So ترك تاجر الحديد, what does it mean up to this point?
The merchant left the iron.
The merchant left the iron. Where did he leave it?
He left it with his neighbor.
Right, so which word are we going to use for with?
I was going to say be.
Be?
As in, better.
No, we're not going to use be. We're going to use عند. عند is what type of اسم?
It's a indicator.
ظرف المكاني. So it's a ظرف that relates to a position, which is what's appropriate here, right? Why? Because we're talking about the location of where التاجر left الحديد. So its a location would be عند, with عند,
with the الجاري he, because it becomes an idafa, isn't it?
right, but we're not going to begin an idafa with al, because the idafatun that comprises of a mudafun and mudafun alayhi, the mudafun can never begin with al, right? So it is عند جاره. ترك التاجر الحديد عند جاره. حسنا. عند جاره. عند ظرف المكاني, but it is also مضاف. Then we have جاري, which is مضاف إليه. That too is a مضاف. And we have he, which is مضاف إليه.
So that's why it doesn't take the al, because of the he.
No, it doesn't take the al, because remember the mudafun in an idafa construct never takes the al, because the al indicates that it is ma'rifatun, definite. In order to show definiteness in an idafa, you don't do it on the first. Now the mudafun, you do it on the mudafun ilayhi. But in this instance, when you attach a damirun muttasilun to an ismun in an idafa construct, then it renders it ma'rifatun known.
Okay, now I get it.
Right?
It's already definite, basically.
Yes. So inda jari is the first idafa. Right? So you need to understand that a mudafun ilayhi, which jari is here, can also be a mudafun to another mudafun ilayhi, which is he. So he here is what state?
It's mansub, majrurun.
It's not is it majrurun? لفظا تقديرا أو محلا. Which one is it? Because ordinarily we would say jaru hu. We would say jaruhu, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
And jaruhu is an idafa construct. So jar is a mudafun, hu is mudafun ilayhi. But the mudafun ilayhi we know in an idafatun is always majrurun. Is this majrurun?
No.
No, so we said that hu is a damir muttasilun mabniyun ala dammi fi mahalli jarrin.
It's assumed to be.
No, not assumed, it's in the position of being majrur. Right? So therefore this is in the position of being majrur. Fi mahalli jarri. And that's the answer. Taraka tajir al-hadid inda jarihi. And this is a useful construct in order to express many different sentences. So you want to say that I left the pen with my son. So how would we say it?
تركت القلم.
Al-qalama, because it would be the maf'ulun bihi.
القلم with who? With my son?
Yes.
In the ibn.
Ibni. Right. Taraktu al-qalama inda ibni. Right. Inda also means besides. So I could say, for example, رأيت الطاولة عند الأريكة. رأيت الطاولة عند الأريكة. I saw the table عند near الأريكة, the sofa. Right? So this leaving something or observing something inda, at, or with, or by is very useful. Right? السؤال الثاني يا محمد.
ماذا قال الجار للتاجر عندما
طلب
الحديد. No, الحديد.
good عندما طلب الحديد.
What the neighbor said.
What did the neighbor
What did the
say?
neighbor say to the merchant with?
When. عندما means when.
Oh, is that one word? Okay. In the when he asked about the dollar. Is that he asked?
He requested.
He requested the iron.
Right. ماذا قال الجار للتاجر عندما طلب الحديد? What did the neighbor say to the trader when he requested the iron? And the answer would be, how are we going to begin our sentence?
قال
Right, good. قال
الجاره.
قال الجار
Trying to find where it says the mysate.
Right, but before that, in order to answer as a complete sentence,
للتاجر.
للتاجر قال الجار للتاجر and this part عندما طلب الحديد.
I'm going to leave that out.
No, Muhammad, for the
طلب.
sake of completeness. عندما طلب الحديد قال الجار للتاجر عندما طلب الحديد
لقد
لقد
أكل no أكلتي.
لقد أكل. Remember, in order to pronounce this correctly, you need to identify who the fa'ilun is.
Well, I remember it was
لقد أكلت who?
farina.
الفيران. الفيران. لقد أكلته الفيران. But the question is, of course, why? Why do we pronounce it أكلته?
Because it's a non-human.
What is a non-human?
The mice.
Al-firanu, which is the
Mice.
the fa'ilun.
On fire. Yeah.
The fa'ilun is non-human, plural.
Plural. That's
Therefore, we treat it as
single female.
single female, which is why we say akalat. The who is the maf'ulun bihi,
Meaning it.
meaning it. It is الضمير متصل مبني على الضم في محل نصب مفعول به. Right? Because ordinarily a maf'ulun bihi is mansubun. Is this a mansubun?
No.
No. So it's a fi mahalli nasbin.
In the position.
The qad here is harfu ta'keed or tahqiq. Accomplishment. Lam is a lam of ta'keed, emphasis. So indeed, al-firanu akalathu, have eaten it. That is what al-jaru qala litajri عندما طلب الحديد. لقد أكلته الفئران. Is that clear? So if we wanted to alter this sentence and say, for example, that I ate the hadid, the iron, then how would we alter it?
لقد
لقد
أكلته.
Right. لقد أكلته.
That's it.
I ate it. If we wanted to say that they ate it,
لكلهم.
they plural male ate it. أكلوه.
No, no.
أكلوه. Remember,
The one.
to make, yes, the plural male, third person, we add the waw and the alif. أكلوه. If you wanted to say we ate it, it would be
أكلناه.
أكلناه. لقد أكلناه. فهمت يا محمد؟ حسنا. اقرأ السؤال الثالث.
ماذا فعل التاجر
ماذا فعل التاجر
بابن جاره
جاري. حسن. ماذا فعل التاجر ب. Then we have ibn and jari. So what do we place on the noon? And what is the role of the noon here? Or rather ibn?
It's an idafa.
Right. B is a harfu jar.
Yeah, so it's going to be
It's going to render ibn majrurun with a kasra. But there's not going to be two on it.
No.
Why?
The idafa, the
Because ibn and jar
idafa
is an idafa construct. Son of neighbor.
His
So it's going to be ibni jari jarihi. For the same rule that we mentioned previously. We have two idafas. We have ibn jarihi, then we have ibni jari and then jarihi. So what does it mean? ماذا فعل التاجر بابن جاره?
What did the merchant do to his neighbor's son?
Right. Or with his neighbor's son.
His neighbor's son.
The answer is
He called him to his house, but he's I can't see it.
well, what did he do?
He invited him to his house.
Well, he never.
Well, he took him to his house.
Right. So how do we say that? How do we say the merchant took his neighbor's son to his house? How are we going to begin the answer?
How do you say took?
أخذ.
Nah.
أخذ. Very important verb is أخذ. أخذ.
أخذ إلى أخذ التاجر
أخذ التاجر فعل ماض ثم الفاعل أخذ التاجر.
إلى بيت.
We're missing the مفعول به. أخذ التاجر.
ابن sorry.
أخذ التاجر ابن
جاره إلى البيت.
إلى
his house.
بيته. أخذ التاجر ابن جاره إلى بيته. Right? Is that clear?
No.
So, again, another expression using verbs that is very common. So how do we say, for example, I went to the market, I bought, let's think of an animal that you can take home, a camel, and I took it to my house.
Okay. I went to the market. ذهبت إلى السوق. What was the next sentence?
And I bought. اشتريت a camel. جملا because it's a مفعول به. اشتريت جملا.
And you brought it to your house.
And I took it, or then I took it to my house. ثم أخذته إلى بيتي. Right? So ذهبت إلى السوق واشتريت جملا ثم أخذته إلى بيتي. فهمت يا محمد? All based upon this type of construct. اقرأ السؤال الرابع. The fourth question يا محمد. هل اعترف
الجار.
هل اعترف الجار بأنه سرق الحديد. هل اعترف الجار بأنه سرق الحديد. So what does the question mean first?
هل is did or is, depending on the context. But I don't know what the second word is.
اعترف, he confessed.
Oh, he confessed. That's the story. Yeah, he is. SubhanAllah. He confessed.
Did.
The neighbor confessed.
No.
Did confess.
هل اعترف الجار? Did the neighbor confess بأنه?
With
No, the ba is a zaid. It's an addition. That he.
Indeed he. So
that he بأنه that he Saraqa.
Sold. He sold.
No, Saraqa does not mean he sold, Ya Muhammad. Saraqa means, remember the ayah, إن يسرق فقد سرق أخ له من قبل, Surah Yusuf. Saraqa, he stole al-hadida. The answer to this question is very straightforward.
No.
Because it is na'am. So we begin with na'am. But of course we're not going to end at that point because we answer with a complete sentence. Na'am. Ittarafa.
Al-jaru.
Ittarafa. Al-jaru. It's good to repeat it because you practice the words al-jaru bi'annahu saraqa al-hadida. نعم اعترف الجار بأنه سرق الحديد. This verb, ittarafa, he confessed. How do we say I confessed?
Ittaraftu.
Ittaraftu. You confess single male.
Ittarafta.
You confess single female.
Ittarafti.
They confess plural male.
I always forget this one.
It's the easy one, it ends with oo. Ittarafu. Ittarafu.
Ittarafu.
They confessed plural female.
Ittarafna.
Ittarafna. Ittarafna. We confessed is
Ittarafna.
Ittarafna. Okay. نعم اعترف الجار بأنه سرق الحديد. If we wanted to negate it and say no, wanted to negate it and say no, we would say la.
La.
Then how would we negate ittarafa?
You just leave it like that, can't you?
No, if we negated it and we said the la, and then we said ittarafa al-jari bi anna saraqa al-hadida. What you are saying is no, the neighbor confessed that he stole the iron. We want to say no, the neighbor didn't confess. So how do we negate ittarafa al-jari bi annahu saraqa al-hadida?
Would you say lan?
Not lan.
Lam.
Lam or
Ma.
ma. Ma for ittarafa.
So you have to say it twice. You have to say ma and la.
No, yes. La negates the general question.
Okay.
Ma negates the verb. La ma ittarafa al-jaru. Or if we're going to use a lam,
You would say
then we cannot use ittarafa because a lam does not enter upon except al-fi'lul mudari'u.
so you would say
Lam
ta'raf.
ya'tarif.
Oh yes, yeah.
Lam ya'tarif. Remember that lam
It's just
is harful al-nafi and also harful jazmi. Renders it majzumun with a sukoon. La lam ya'tarif and la ma tarafa, and the remainder stays the same.
right.
You can use a mine, ya Muhammad. So, that was section Alif, which is easy questions. Now we're on to section ba, which is the more challenging questions, the more interesting ones, right? So the first one is
هل
قال
الجار للتاجر الحقيقة عن الحديد
عن الحديد
No harf jar, is it?
حديد. Yes, عن
Is it harf jar?
is حرف جر يا محمد. هل قال الجار للتاجر الحقيقة عن الحديد؟ الحقيقة is the truth.
Yeah.
So what does the question mean?
Did the neighbor say the truth to his neighbor about the iron?
To the trader.
To the trader.
عن الحديد about the iron.
About the iron.
Actually, the answer to this question is very straightforward, which is
نعم.
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 نعم, yes. هل قال الجار للتاجر الحقيقة
قال جار.
عن الحديد?
Yeah.
He did, did he? He did speak the truth about what happened to his iron.
In the end.
No, it's not talking about in the end.
Is it not?
No. I assume the question relates to what he said initially about
Okay.
the whereabouts of the iron.
Then it's لا.
لا. لا.
لا قال
No, we need to now negate.
لا ما قال
ما قال الجار
للتاجر الحقيقة عن الحديد.
لا, ما قال الجار للتاجر الحقيقة عن الحديد. Right? The other way of negating the qala would be
لن.
not lan. Lan is for the future.
Oh, sorry. لم.
Lam.
Then you say قل.
Lam.
قل.
No. So, this is interesting. The present tense al-mudari'u of qala is يقول. يقول. So, يقول is he says. I say is أقول. You say is
that's يقول as well.
تقول. She says is تقول.
لينا.
You single female says is تقولين. We say is
نقول.
نقول. They plural male say is
نقول.
يقولون.
يقولون.
They plural female says is يقولن. However, now, if we enter or introduce a lam upon it, we need to make يقول مجزوم. We can't make it مجزوم by placing a sukuna, because there's already a sukoon on the waw.
So you make a kasra.
So you drop the waw. لم يقل.
Is that all letters that are like that?
For this pattern, Allah,
Yeah.
yes. Like kana. That's why he said لم يكن لم يكن له كفوا أحد. So it is لم يكن. Ordinarily it would be يكون. But the lam renders yakun by dropping the waw and a jazm upon the noon. So the two methods of doing it is ما قال الجار للتاجر الحقيقة عن الحديد or لا لم يقل. That question was easy too. Hasanan. The next one, Ya Muhammad.
ماذا
ماذا
فعل
فعل
الجار بالحديد.
ماذا فعل الجار
بالحديد.
بالحديد. Is that the
Yeah.
ماذا فعل الجار بالحديد? Which means,
What did the neighbor do with iron?
what did the neighbor do with the iron? ماذا فعل الجار بالحديد? Ya Muhammad, Ajib, answer. What did the neighbor do with the iron?
فعل.
Never begin the answer with fa'ala, because fa'ala means he did. So we need to answer by saying what he did.
سرق.
Right. Saraqa.
Then you would say the noun in it.
Saraqa.
فاعل.
Saraqa. Man saraqa.
He stole.
Who? Man.
الجار.
Saraqa. Al-jaru.
الحديد.
Al-hadida. Saraqa al-jaru al-hadida, meaning?
He stole. The merchant stole the iron.
Hasanan.
No, sorry, the neighbor stole the iron.
The neighbor, Saraqa al-hadida. Thumma. Right, so you could end at this point. Or we could say Saraqa al-jaru al-hadida. But we want to make it a bit more interesting. I want to say that he sold it in the market.
Okay.
So what's the verb he sold? We've mentioned this before. Ishtara is he bought, he sold is ba'a. Remember? Ba'a is he sold. So we want to say, and he sold it in the market.
wa
Wa
ba'a
ba'a
ba'ahu.
ba'ahu. Why ba'ahu?
Because he sold it.
Because the hu refers to
The
al-hadida,
that's it.
right? Wa ba'ahu, and he sold it
In the market, bisuki
fi
or fisuki.
suqi. I mean, you could say bisuqi, but fi suqi, for a large price.
Kabirun
For a large price.
lil kabir li.
Li, price comes first.
I don't know the price.
للثمن, we've mentioned it, ثمن. للثمن
Kabir al-kabiri.
الكبير. That's much more interesting now, isn't it, Muhammad? سرق الجار الحديد وباعه في السوق للثمن الكبير. And then we could further elaborate and say another merchant bought it.
Ooh, another word for another. We did it.
آخر.
No, that's other. No, I was thinking of akhra or.
أخرى is for female other.
Oh, okay, alright.
Right? واشتراه تاجر آخر. Another تاجر اشتراه, bought it. حسنا. Right. Number الثالث. اقرأه يا محمد.
كيف أخذ
كيف أخذ
التاجر
كيف أخذ التاجر
ثمن الحديد
ثمن الحديد. Why الحديد? ثمن الحديد.
Oh, it's the offer. Oh, it's not finished yet. It says من جاره
من جاره.
من جاره
من جاره. كيف أخذ التاجر ثمن الحديد من جاره. So the question means كيف.
It's not how.
كيف, how. أخذ,
You just told me that as well. I forgot. He sold.
not he sold, يا محمد. أخذ.
I can't remember. You just told me like 30 seconds ago.
Like the ayah, كذلك أخذ ربك إذا أخذ القرى وهي ظالمة. أخذ, he took.
He took how did the merchant take
ثمن الحديد.
The price of the iron from his neighbor.
Right, that's correct. How did التاجر take the price of الحديد من جاره?
He took his son in it. That's how he got it.
Right, but we need to answer it in a complete, correct sentence here, Muhammad. Let's think about it. What's the first thing that we're going to say?
أخذ.
أخذ.
التاجر.
أخذ التاجر ثمن
الحديد.
الحديد من جاره بابن جاره. What does it mean up to this point?
The merchant took the price of the iron from his neighbor by taking his son.
So we want to say
بابن
بأخذ بأخذ. So now we're using the verbal noun al-masdar, not the verb. بأخذ بأخذ ابن جاره إلى بيته. So we know the meaning up to this point. أخذ التاجر ثمن الحديد من جاره.
By taking.
بأخذ. So B is a حرف جر. أخذ is اسم مجرور. Taking أخذ ابني. This is an إضافة construct. أخذ ابني. Then ابني جاري is another إضافة construct. جاره is another إضافة construct. إلى
to his house.
بيته, to his house. But it's not complete there, is it? Because that's not how he obtained the price of the iron. ثم
he came. How do you say he came?
جاء.
That's it.
ثم جاء
جاره.
ثم جاء جاره.
التاجر.
No, we've said ثم جاء جاره.
Okay.
Then his neighbor came.
To his house. So بيته. No.
إلى بيته. Right, at this point we need to describe why he came. What was his state when he was coming? What was he doing?
He was looking for his son. So he's trying to.
What's the verb he looked? بحث. بحث. So we're going to say he's looking. يبحث. يبحث عن. يبحث عن. He's looking for عن ابنه. يبحث عن ابنه. Then
the neighbor came.
No, he's already come, Ya Muhammad. ثم جاء جاره.
His neighbor come to his.
إلى بيته. يبحث
searching
عن ابنه.
about his child or his son.
And then, but if we stop here, it still doesn't explain how he
Got the prize.
managed to obtain ثمن الحديد. Something else must have happened.
Then he spoke to his neighbour and his son came out. Then he told him the price. Well, that's
Not quite. ثم جاء جاره إلى بيته يبحث عن ابنه. And he asked him, have you seen my son? And he asked him, how do we say that?
Or
What? He asked him.
Asad
وسأله. وسأله.
Have you seen رأيت
هل
no رأيت هل رأيت
هل رأيت
ابني
ابني. ابني. هل رأيت ابني. So what did Tajir say in response to that?
He said something long about
Well, we need to summarize it.
he sees his son flying with the ravens.
So we're gonna have to erase this and carry on above where we've already started. هل رأيت ابني. So what happened? فأجابه التاجر. فأجابه
So he replied.
التاجر.
The merchant replied.
Right? Ajaba means he responded. The other way, common way to describe how someone responded is radda. Radda alayhi. He responded to him. فأجابه التاجر. رأيت.
He said رأيت غرابا.
رأيت غرابا
يحمل
يحمل ولدا ويطير به
ربما
ويطير به ربما يكون ذلك الولد
ابنك.
right ابنك. So فأجابه التاجر رأيت غرابا. ما معنى رأيت غرابا؟
He goes, I saw
a raven يحمل ولدا
having a boy
ويطير به
flying
with him. ربما يكون ذلك الولد ابنك.
Perhaps he was that your child?
Right, perhaps that boy
That
ابنك.
your child, yes.
Right. Now we could carry on and explain what happened next, but then that's just repeating the entire story. So rather than doing that, at this point we need to conclude it.
Thumma?
No, before we say thumma, what after thumma? We need to express the fact that at this point the neighbor realized that he needs to speak the truth. about what happened to the iron. For in doing so, it may result in his son being returned to him. So, at that point, عند ذلك
with that
the neighbor realized. Arafa, to become aware.
Arafa.
A very common verb, arafa.
Arafa.
Arafa al-jaru.
Jaru. He realized that he needs to confess. So
عرف الجار بأنه
أطرف
بأنه عليه, meaning upon him. Right? That upon him to confess. أن يعترف
حق
بما فعل بالحديد. حديد. There you go, we finished. It's good that, isn't it? Just in time. So we have فأجاب التاجر. The tajir responded. رأيت غرابا يحمل ولد ويطير به. That's from the story. ربما يكون ذلك الولد ابنك. That's from the story too.
No.
Then we have our summarized version of what happened towards the end. عند ذلك, with that. عرف الجار.
He realized, the merchant realized,
Or he knew, he realized.
the neighbor
بأنه, that he. عليه, on him. Or you could say يجب عليه, must. عليه, on him. When you say عليه or عليك, it means upon you, to do something. Right? عليك أن تدرس. You must study. عليك أن تصلي. You must pray, and so on and so forth. بأنه عليه أن, that يعترف,
to confess,
that he confesses بما regarding بما فعل, regarding what he did بالحديد, with the iron. So yeah, Muhammad, read it from أخذ and translate it.
أخذ جاره
أخذ التاجر.
سبحان الله. أخذ التاجر ثمن الحديد. Oh, you want to translate now?
Yes.
What was أخذ again?
He took.
سبحان الله. The merchant took the price of the iron من جاره, from his neighbor, بأخذ, by taking ابن جاره, his son, إلى بيته, to his house. ثم, after, جاء جاره, his neighbor came, or come, إلى بيته, to his house. يبحث regard searching and ibnihi. Is that ibnihi?
Yes.
Yeah. About his son. وسأله and he asked him هل رأيت ابني did you see my son?
حسنا. فأجابه.
So he replied.
التاجر.
So he, the merchant, replied. The merchant replied to him. Who? رأيت غرابا يحمل ولدا. I saw a bird, a raven, carrying a boy. ويطير به. Flying with him. ربما يكون ذلك
الولد
ابنك. Perhaps that boy was your son. عند ذلك, with that, عرف الجار, the merchant realized بأنه that he عليه upon him أن
يعترف.
is that أن or أن?
To يعترف, he confesses.
يعترف, to confess بما regarding فعل بالحديد, what he did with the iron.
Very good, yeah, Muhammad, mashallah.
It's very hard.
Well, it's slightly more difficult, but the majority of this answer comprises of words or phrases that you're already familiar with. And it's all now related to how frequently you practice it, which will depend upon how quickly you master it. Any questions? واضح? Clear, يا محمد? Alhamdulillah. Shall conclude. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.